And it's time for a glorious episode of Down in the Blocks with number 45, Chris Young, the former pivot man for the Wolverines. We are both ecstatic, grinning ear to ear. I was tossing and turning last night, Chris, because I was so jacked that the Michigan Wolverines played so well, and they're in the Elite Eight, and Brandon Johns is stepping up, and different players are stepping up, and Shawnee's back. And even though Eli didn't have a great game, he broke the press, as did Mike Smith. Constant, multiple contributions. Just another example of that last night in the 18-point win for the Wolverines.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, I was pretty jacked up after watching, Michigan just take apart a very good Florida State team. And then I sat down and I watched that next game, the UCLA Alabama game, and I expected that to be, Alabama just a dominant performance. And it was like, man, I'll take either one of these teams. With the way we played last night, I would take either one, no problem.
Okay, because that was the question that I was texting a lot of Michigan fans. We were saying, well, who do we want to play here? Because everybody's, that's natural, a human instinct. Let's get the least obstacle. By the seeding numbers, you think, oh, you want to play UCLA, but this has been a UCLA team who's red hot, and they got a couple speedy guards.
Yep.
And anybody can beat anybody because they're all good at this time. Okay, at this stage of the game. But so you're as a former player, you're pretty indifferent. You're indifferent of who you feel confident either way. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the guys that were doing the game, Charles Barkley and stuff like that, at the halftime of the UCLA Alabama game, they basically broke it down perfectly that it was just one-on-one. It looked like an NBA style game. The floor was totally spread. There was no offenses or very few offenses and very few ball screens being run, and it was all one-on-one, and it was trying to break your man down or one pass and a three. It was not team basketball. And if you try and do that against Michigan, unless you're shooting 50% or higher from three, Michigan's going to beat you. Because we know the guys, Michigan's going to work the ball around. They're going to find the open man. The ball's going to go inside and out. It's going to be, textbook traditional college basketball where UCLA now they want to break guys down one-on-one. They want to show that they can beat whoever's guarding them off the dribble.
Right.
And, okay, go ahead and try and beat Franz Wagner off the dribble. Because if you get around him, 7-1 Hunter Dickinson standing behind him.
Right.
We played such a good style of defense that I don't have a problem with these matchups. I don't have a problem with the opponent. I wouldn't have had a problem with the way Alabama was playing yesterday.
Okay. Yeah, because Alabama, is a 2 seed. I mean, it's just on paper, and you I guess you would, human nature. Well, you want to take the higher seed, but I get that. I get that totally. So, were you surprised? What pleasantly surprised you, post Florida State game versus pre Florida State game? I mean, you had your concerns, obviously. I mean, what was the biggest takeaway from that game? Where a game that was slated to be a 2.5, 3-point game, as far as point spread, ended up being a blowout in the second half?
The biggest thing that I took away was the play of Brandon Johns. I mean, he's been a guy that we've talked about extensively on the podcast, and we haven't always been very flattering with his play. And he showed that he is an emerging potential star with the way he played last night. That was by far the best performance he's had since he put on a Michigan jersey. He did everything. He took care of the ball. He made the right passes. He went to the basket. He drew 6 fouls and didn't have a personal foul.
Right.
In 5 minutes of play. I mean, that's almost unheard of.
Yeah.
And he did everything right. He didn't even attempt a 3. Everything was going at the basket. Or, the funniest thing was that you could tell he was kind of cooking when he shot that little half runner, the 10, 12 footer, where it wasn't a shot. It was just kind of a little push shot. You could tell that his confidence is building. So that was one of the big takeaways. And the other was that Florida State's the tallest team on average in the country. And every possession, we had 3 or 4 guys in there banging, fighting, grabbing, clawing, biting for offensive rebounds and defensive rebounds.
Yeah.
On every possession. And I can't tell you how many times, Brandon Johns, realistically, he probably had 17 or 18 rebounds, same with Hunter Dickinson, if they would count all the tap outs that they had to everybody else. Because there was plenty of times where they'd go for a rebound, couldn't get it, and then tap it to Franz Wagner. Or tap it to Brooks, or tap it to somebody else, and then they could take off up the floor. It was just an amazing thing to watch how everyone just kind of, crowded in right around the rim, and everybody was fighting for that ball the entire game. Because if they don't do that, let Florida State get a couple easy offensive rebound putbacks, that's a totally different ballgame. But we totally took their heart, just knowing that they're not getting anything easy in the paint.
Yeah, I thought Michigan turned Florida State over 10 times in the first half was huge, and people thought they looked bad. Florida State looked like a horrible team. Naysayers would say that. I thought Michigan made them look bad because of their defense. I thought Franz Wagner. We've had discussions about Franz. Some games, some big games, some not all big games, but some big games, he has disappeared at times. And you say to yourself, okay, you're a lotto pick and you disappear in this game. These last two games, he has appeared on steroids, man. He is, and his deflections, rebounds, dribble drive penetration. He had a big three at a really critical time. I think it was soon after that when FSU got it down to 5 with about 10.5 to go. Michigan had about 3 stops in a row and then a bucket and an and one. And then Franz had a 3. All of a sudden, worries over. Talk about his game, if you could, Chris.
No, he has really emerged as an overall total contributor for this team. I mean, he was flirting again with a triple-double last night. He had 5 assists. He had a couple steals. He had a bunch of deflections. Anytime anybody's going to the basket, he's in there disrupting it. We score, and he's immediately at the top of the press, disrupting the guy inbounding the ball, and then he's keeping the ball on one side and not letting that pass come back across. So the way that, Florida State could beat the press, he's the Swiss Army knife of this team. Whatever you need him to do, he just kind of does it, and he's doing everything better and better and better. And you knew, he kind of was cruising a little bit on offense. He wasn't really forcing anything. He wasn't going to the basket. And then all of a sudden he decided, yeah, you know what? I'm just going to start going to the basket now. And he broke guys down, faked the kick out, gave a little Euro step and finished. I mean, shot his little, hook shot. I mean, it was perfect. He could not have played any better than the way he played last night.
No, I agree totally. I want to go back to Brandon Johns because, and I was talking to Richard Ralford about this on the other podcast I do with a former Michigan player, and I was, as far as Brandon goes, and you're right. You and I have been, I wouldn't say heavily critical, but we've seen some areas that Brandon can be more consistent in, and he can be more consistent. He has a ton of opportunity for and ones, if you will.
Yes.
Where he's close and he's getting closer.
Yep.
But there was a time when he could have had an and one and it ended up with 2 missed free throws. And free throws is another discussion I want to bring up in a second. But he still has the ceiling's high. He can get higher, and that excites me more about anything. I mean, this guy could be a 20 and 10 guy, to be honest.
For sure. Yeah, the way he's playing now and the things that he's showing, he could be a 20 and 10 guy in the Big Ten for us next year. There is no doubt about that. And even now coming down the stretch, I mean, I just have a feeling there's going to be a game where he's going to break out, and it's going to be, oh my God, Brandon Johns just literally put the team on his back and carried us to the promised land. But you're exactly right. The last 2 games, he's been shooting, 7, 8, 9 free throws a game because he's being aggressive and he's drawing fouls. And every time they're all putbacks at the rim. And if he could figure out how to just finish those, instead of going line to shoot 2, he's going to line to shoot an and 1. Just get over that little hump, and then that's how you get to 20 from 14. Just make those couple little putbacks, make an extra free throw, and he's at 20. So he's right on the verge of being a big reason why. We could potentially go to the Final Four, win a national championship and all that. But on the flip side, we go as far as Brandon Johns goes. If he comes out tomorrow night and lays an egg, we could probably get past UCLA without him. Right. Now, we get against Gonzaga or, Southern Cal. I don't know if we can get by either of those teams, and I don't think we can get past Baylor without him either.
Oh no, Baylor.
Yeah, we go as far as he can carry us because we know what we're going to get from the other guys, but it's a matter of what Brandon Johns can bring to the table.
Not to get ahead of ourselves, but I actually fear Baylor more than Gonzaga because of their guards and they discombobulate defensively. That team's good. Okay, first things first, though. Okay, so so we're in agreement on Brandon if he could finish. I got the perfect tutor for him, Austin Davis. That's a guy who invented finish.
Yes.
I mean, he had a couple. There were a couple high lows there that were amazing, and the ball's delivered on time. He is so freaking consistent at finishing. I've never seen anybody like that. Maybe since Chris Young.
He's very efficient. He's very efficient, and you could tell when he got in the game last night. He was a little. You could see there was a little edge to him. He was a little pissed off because he didn't score against LSU. I don't even think he took a shot against LSU.
No. Maybe
and so
one.
as soon as he got around the bucket, there was no kicking it out. There was no, I'm going to up fake and try and go around this guy. I'm just going right through him.
Yeah.
And he just went up and scored and got dunks and just did everything. But one thing that Austin needs to work with Brandon Johns on during the course of this next week and this off season and then going into next year is his hands. Because Austin Davis's hands are phenomenal. It doesn't matter where the ball is in the whole, I mean, within the 6 or 8 foot radius of him, you put the ball up there. Brandon threw him a pass. And he took 2 steps across the lane, caught it with one big paw, spun, and dunked it. It's just, his hands are phenomenal. And if we get Brandon to catch some of the balls the way that Austin can, he'll be a hell of a player then.
I mean, Austin could play overseas. I'll tell you. Austin.
For sure.
And Austin could play tight end if you slap another 50 pounds on him. I mean, his hands are so soft. I mean, I agree with you. And when Hunter goes out, there are some times, Chris, that I'm looking at Hunter sitting over there, and Michigan's gone 3 to 4 minutes, and they've got a +2 or +4 out of it. And I go, this is happening, and you got your All-American on the sideline sitting over there just kind of chilling.
Yes.
I mean, huge asset, Austin Davis.
Yeah, when Austin comes in, he's instant offense. He's going to get some buckets. He's going to get some rebounds. He's going to knock some people around. And, he'll go on a 4 to 6 point run by himself. He'll get a couple possessions and just string them together on offense. But it feels like instead of it being a 4 to 6 point run, it's like, man, we're on like a 15-0 run because you don't expect it from a guy coming off the bench, like you said, backing up an All-American. But that's what Austin does. And he loves it. He embraces his role, and he comes out there and just, does what he's got to do. He can't go out there and play 25 to 30 per and, expound on that efficiency. That's not him. That's not his game. But he fits in perfectly with what his role is, and he does his job, I'd say, better than 99% of the backup bigs in the entire country.
Yeah, I love that. I love the minute breakdown on this lineup. I'm going to go over it real quickly. I think this is the quote unquote sweet spot going forward on the down the stretch, and hopefully it's 3 more wins. Is that you have Hunter, Smitty, Wagner, and Eli all in the 30+ range of minutes. And then you got Brandon at the 25, and then Shawnee about 22, and then T. Will, he's and Austin at about 8 or 9 or 10.
Yep.
And then T. Will about 5.
Yes.
And there's your cutoff line. And so basically you got, as I've just cited there, you got about 7 guys in double-digit minutes and T. Will at 5. That's the sweet spot in terms of distribution of minutes, I think, with this lineup. And maybe it might be more with Brandon.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. And, keep Shawnee Brown right around that 20 to 22 minute mark. If he's really cooking, okay, you bump him up to 24, 25. If he's missing his shots, you back him down and you plug T. Will in there, and maybe he'll get you, instead of 5 minutes, maybe he'll get you 7 minutes and get you a couple rebounds and a couple buckets. But you're right. With the rotations that they had going last night and the minute distribution, it could not have been any better. I mean, this was a very well-coached game. It's almost kind of scary when this coaching staff has got, the better part of a week to prep for a game, what their game plan is and how they're able to prepare the guys. So it's going to be interesting to see how they're able to come back against UCLA tomorrow. Then we get past them, and then again they've got 4 days to prep for more than likely Gonzaga. It's going to be very interesting to see how they're able to game plan and fine tune the minutes and the rotations and everything that you need to do, all the nuanced stuff. So it's an exciting time, man. This is such good stuff.
I think, Chris, it was to Michigan's benefit in the transition not having Isaiah Livers and bringing Brandon in here, that the Sweet 16 Elite 8 thing got shifted back 2 days. Because all of a sudden they had more practice time between round of 32 and the Sweet 16, where they needed it, where they actually needed it.
Yep.
Now the Final Four, hopefully we're going to be, that's a relevant topic right now, but going from Elite 8 to Final Four, I don't think Michigan needs as much time because they're further removed from the transition.
Yeah.
So I like how I like how that is laid out. And part of that was logistical, traveling and all that stuff, taking a lot, man. You want to have those issues. I mean, I think it's I think this layout, I commend the NC2A. I like this layout the way it is. And I'm a traditionalist, so I like to see people cutting down the nets on the regional for the regional final on the weekends, and not at midnight, for God's sake, like it's going to be tonight and tomorrow night for the game 2 games. But I just think, once again, I think this is Michigan friendly, if you will, if they can do that. So moving forward, so let's delve quickly into this UCLA game. And look at the Bruins. I mean, obviously the 3-ball is an issue. I mean, they can score in bunches.
Yep.
What are the indicators? What are the fear factors? What are the fear factor indicators Michigan fans don't want to see, but you could see tomorrow night that Michigan could have some trouble navigating the Bruins?
One of the biggest things is, UCLA's point guard, the kid with the braids. I don't have their names all memorized yet, but the kid with the braids, who's their point guard, he's a little water bug. He is. His
name is Tiger. I can't remember his last name.
Yeah, he is lightning fast, and all he wants to do is run up and down and play that and one mixtape type stuff. And if he's allowed to just run up and down, get a defensive rebound, and let him just take off the floor, that's the one thing Michigan fans do not want to see. The other thing is that the kid, the Kentucky transfer, the shooter.
Johnny Juwan.
You don't want to see him make his first couple shots, because if he makes his first couple shots, he could very easily go for 30, because he'll start shooting from the logo. He'll start shooting from all over the place, and he might shoot him into the game, and he might totally shoot him out of the game, but he's got the potential to go for 30.
Yeah,
and that type of player. That's another aspect of the game that you just don't. As Michigan fans, you got to be aware of that. These guys are tremendous shooters. They didn't really show it last night, but they have no conscience. They came out the second half against Alabama, and they couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, and yet they just kept shooting. Didn't care. They squandered that entire lead they had going into halftime, and they'll just shoot. And hopefully they're not making anything, and hopefully they don't go 90% from the free throw line tomorrow, as opposed to what they did last night, because they couldn't make a free throw last night. So those are the biggest things that I see that we got to worry about. They want to get up and down and run. They really want to get out in transition. They don't want to guard. They do not want to guard half-court sets. They do not want to play help side D. So if we run our sets and are efficient with our movements and our cuts, I don't see this game being too much of an issue.
Yeah, Johnny Juwan is the guy you're talking about who transferred from Kentucky. He was a big land, and ironically, UCLA has won 2 overtime games where he didn't play in the overtime against Michigan State. Remember how he turned his ankle? And he was terrific. And I thought, they have no shot. But they got it done. And then last night he fouled out.
He fouled out.
Before
again,
the end of
because he doesn't want to play defense, though. He was reaching in on everything, and they finally called enough to get him out of the game, because he doesn't want to sit down and guard people. He wants to reach and back tap people and then take off the floor and play offense. So if we can make him sit down and guard, we can get him in foul trouble, and it's a totally different game without him on the court.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think there's I want your comment about that. As far as being the number 1 seed, playing this what is UCLA 11 seed house money kind of mentality. Do you think Michigan's going to feel pressure, or there's pressure no matter what, because it's right there on the cusp?
I think they're going to feel pressure because they know that the Final Four is within their grasp.
Right.
And if the only thing stopping them is themselves. They're not going against a Gonzaga or a Baylor, or having to play Illinois again or something like that to get to the Final Four. You know, they're not having to play a red-hot Alabama team, which they were for the last couple weeks, and they laid an egg last night. They're playing against an opponent that they've won some games. They've done a great job to get to where they're at, considering, you know, they're 11 seed, having to play the play-in game and all that. But it's a team on paper they should beat.
Right.
If you look at position to position, matchup to matchup, a couple more are a wash, and otherwise it's all favors Michigan.
Yeah.
So if they come out and play the way they played last night with the same energy, the same swagger, just going out there and taking care of business, you could jump on this team by 20 and they're done. They don't have the ability to come back from something like that.
Yeah. You know, well, one thing I do want to comment about Michigan, they won this game handily yesterday without shooting, without 3 balls beyond the arc. They had a couple and ones. I mean, so that's a good sign they can win big without that. And the other thing is that Alabama certainly had this problem. I mean, they bricked about 14 free throws, but Michigan was 15 of 23, and there's a couple front end of 1-on-1s, like Eli I know missed one. I think Smitty missed one. Those are turnovers I call them turnovers.
Yes.
And I just don't think you can afford to do that. And they got to shoot better free throws.
Yeah.
If you
want to lose against UCLA, do that again.
Yeah. You're right.
Again. You know, shoot that type of percentage from the free throw line again.
Yeah.
You know, shoot 40 or shoot 60% from the free throw line. You'll lose a game because, you know, other teams are going to make shots. The other things are going to happen. You want to win a national championship, you gotta shoot 75 to 80% from the free throw line. You got to shoot 35% from 3. You got to shoot 40 to 45% from the field. These are things you have to do. And if you don't do one part of those, you better bump up those percentages on the other ones, because the other team is going to do it. I mean, now there's no easy outs. There's killers out there on you know, left in all the brackets. So they better be shooting free throws today. They better be getting used to those rims and getting it figured out. Because if they don't, we don't want a dogfight tomorrow. No. I want a nice victory like we had last night, you know, where it's exciting, it's fun, and it's a 20-point game, and he clears the bench, and Jace gets to play, and the whole thing. That's what I want to see tomorrow night, because I know we're capable of it. I don't want to see it's a 5-point game with 5 to go, and Michigan's got the ball, and oh shit, we just turned it over, and they come down and hit a 3, and we have to call timeout, and it's the whole thing. You know, I don't want to see that.
That's misery. That's
absolute misery, especially because it'll be at 11:30 at night. So that's the other part.
Then we'll fall asleep at 4 a.m. because it'll take us a long time to rev down. Yeah, you know. Now they're moving over to Lucas Oil, so they're going to be but Michigan's played at Lucas Oil more than UCLA has.
Yes.
So that's good. No, I agree with you. And the other thing is the reason I don't think Michigan could shot well beyond the arc. I mean, they didn't get a lot of looks beyond the arc. And because the guards were so damn big, you got a 6'9" guard. And the same thing goes with in the LSU game. I mean, you had those 2 really good guards that pressured the ball. I think Michigan can shoot threes against UCLA. I mean, conventional threes. I mean, the old beyond, you know, not the N1 threes. I mean, 3 balls. Yeah. And I think that's going to come into play. And that's where Shawnee could come into play. That's where Eli could come into play, and obviously Franz, and maybe even Brandon could hit one from the corner, because he does like that. It looks good. It's just not going down.
Yeah, but I like the way he played yesterday, where he didn't even look at the rim when he was out there. Everything was going at the basket.
Yeah, that's
sweet. And I don't have a problem. You know, they were 3 for 11 last night, and Franz didn't hit one.
Yeah.
So you know, that's not a terrible thing to have happen. You know, that just shows that everything was in the. I mean, we had 50 points in the paint.
That was amazing. Amazing metric.
Yeah, that just shows that we're being aggressive. We're not settling. You know, I love John Beilein. I love everything he did for the program, but it's not okay. We're chucking up 27 to 33s, and if we hit 14 of them, we're going to win. If we hit 12 of them, we're going to lose. It's not that type of team. It's not that type of offense, and that's not what we're going to do the rest of the way. You know, we'll shoot them when they come, when they're in the rhythm of the game, but we're not just going to be out there forcing them up if we can get to the basket. And UCLA doesn't have anybody big. They don't have any big shot blockers. They don't have anybody that's a real rim protector. Go at the rim and then give the ball to Hunter Dickinson. I mean, the matchup inside Hunter Dickinson and Austin Davis, they should combine for they should combine for like 35 and 20.
God, I hope
they really should. There's nobody inside on UCLA's team that can mildly slow these 2 guys down.
Yeah. Yeah, Hawk has that 6'6" guy. He's one of their most burly guys. He's 6'6", 220.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
and he had
But
27.
again, this goes back to the game last week where Hunter Dickinson spun to the basket, and in the Big Ten he's got his elbows up and he goes and he catches the guy in the chops.
Yeah,
because he's not used to playing against a big guy that's 6'6" or 6'7". So that's going to be a little bit of an adjustment for him. But I'm just, if I was Hunter Dickinson and Austin Davis, I'd be licking my chops. I'd be on my guy's ass. Give me the ball every time down because I'm going to kill these guys.
Okay. So I'm all, you got me all fired up, Chris. So if this doesn't work out, I'm gonna text you some nasties, about halfway through. Say, where's this stuff that you promised here?
Hey, well, the thing is, I don't know if Juwan and the guys are actually listening to our podcast or not. I hope maybe they are, but I don't know if they actually are listening to my advice. But this is what I would do if it was Coach Young. Right. This is what would happen.
Coach CY. Okay, Chris, you brought it strong as always. Let's hope for the best. Hope the Maize and Blue move on. And regardless what happens tomorrow night, we're going to reconnect on Wednesday evening. Hopefully about a big Michigan victory and a berth in the Final Four. Would that be sweet?
Unreal.
All right, CY. Be good. Be safe.
All right, Tom. All right. Thanks. Go Blue.